Please don't forget subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to get notified of new daily videos.
I've always been a bit of a history buff, especially when it comes to the obscure and the forgotten. That's how I first became obsessed with the Elmwood Clock Tower. It stood in a neglected corner of the old industrial district, a gaunt brick skeleton against the skyline, its clock face a blank, shattered eye. Locals had their whispers about it, of course. The tower eats time. People go in and lose days. The Chronos keepers never let you leave. I, Lyndon, being the rationalist, just saw a fascinating piece of civic architecture slowly crumbling. One particularly thick autumn fog, the kind that swallows sound and muffles the city into an eerie hush, I decided it was time. The main gate, rusted long ago, groaned open with a reluctant shriek. I slipped inside, my camera bag slung over my shoulder, the only sound my own breathing. The air inside the tower's base was unnaturally still, cold, and permeated with the scent of damp stone and forgotten dust. Not a single bird or insect could be heard, which felt impossible for a building in the heart of the city. I started my ascent, flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. The first few floors were just what I expected: graffiti-covered walls, piles of debris, the ghosts of past industry. But then, on the second floor, something shifted. I heard it faintly, a child's distant, joyous laugh. It was a sound I hadn't registered in decades. My heart gave a strange thump. I rounded a corner and saw it, a fleeting, almost translucent image of my old dog, Skipper, limping around a broken pillar. Skipper, who'd been gone for 20 years. My flashlight beam passed right through where he should have been, leaving only dust motes dancing in the light. I told myself it was fatigue, an echo, a trick of the light in an old building. But as I climbed higher, the clocks began. Not just broken, but stopped at impossible times. 1372, 0000, 25:15, as if time itself had shattered within these walls. Each chime, when one occasionally stirred, was out of sync, a cacophony of lost moments. I eventually reached a vast, circular chamber, clearly once the main works of the clock mechanism. A figure was hunched over a heavy workbench, illuminated by a sickly, flickering green light emanating from somewhere unseen. It was Mr. Jacobs, my old shop teacher from high school, who'd passed away 5 years ago. He was mumbling to himself, his fingers meticulously tracing lines on a massive, intricate gear. His face was blurred, like an old photograph struggling to materialize, and his eyes, when he finally looked up, were empty, twin clockwork mechanisms ticking softly in their sockets. He didn't acknowledge me directly, but his voice, a dry rasp, cut through the silence. Missing cogs, slipping moments. It all collects here, you see. You just have to tend to it, or it unravels us all. He returned to his work, humming a tuneless, ancient melody. Panic, cold and sharp, began to set in. This wasn't just a dilapidated building. I tried to leave. I hurried back down the spiraling stairs, but the ground floor had changed. The heavy oak door I'd entered through was gone, replaced by a solid wall of ancient, unmoving clock faces, their hands fused to the hour. I checked my phone. No signal, the time rapidly glitching from one impossible timestamp to another. I tried other stairwells, but they all seemed to lead me back to the same, increasingly distorted floors. Windows I'd seen on my ascent were now bricked up, or opened onto impossible vistas of gears and shadowy mechanisms. The air grew heavier, thick with a sense of immense, forgotten age. My own memories started to fray at the edges. I stumbled into a small, dusty alcove and found old journals filled with my handwriting from my youth, detailing plans to explore the tower, speaking of the Watchers and the Chronos keepers. I had no recollection of writing them, yet they were undeniably mine. Driven by a desperate impulse, I pushed through a heavy, rusted door and found myself in the main clock mechanism room, a cavernous space where colossal gears slowly, erratically ground against each other. The very air vibrated with the strain of distorted time. And there they were, countless figures, translucent, flickering like old film. Some I recognized, a distant relative, a childhood friend I'd forgotten, even strangers from the streets below. All were hunched over, tending to the gears, winding unseen springs, their faces a mask of serene, terrifying emptiness. They were the lost moments, the eaten time. Then I saw him, A younger version of myself, perhaps 20 years old, perpetually winding a small, ornate clock with frantic, desperate movements. He looked up, his eyes wide with despair, and mouthed 2 words. "You can't leave." The gears around me suddenly accelerated, the sound deafening, a blinding flash of light erupting from the central mechanism. I covered my ears, stumbled backward, and scrambled away, my mind screaming. I ran blindly, crashing through a smaller, rusted service door I hadn't noticed before, and burst out into the night. The fog was still thick, but the streetlights hummed. My phone showed a signal, but the date was 3 days later than when I'd entered the tower. I stood there, gasping, shaking, the image of my younger self's desperate face burned into my mind. I looked down at my wrist, and where my simple watch should have been, there was now a small, intricate charm of gears and springs, permanently stopped, fused to my skin. I try to ignore the constant, almost subliminal ticking I hear, or the phantom clocks I sometimes catch in my peripheral vision, their hands spinning wildly backwards. I escaped the tower, but I think a piece of me, or a piece of my time, is still ticking away inside its walls. And sometimes, late at night, I hear the faint chime of a forgotten hour.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button to like it. And please do subscribe to support the channel.